That night, I thought I was alone until the dark began to breathe. A whisper touched my ear, warm and slow, saying things no one should know. I couldn't see it, but I could feel its breath tracing my skin, and that's when I realized the night wanted me too. The city had gone quiet hours ago, but my room still felt alive. The curtain moved, though the window was shut, and the air had that strange weight again, the kind that presses against your skin, soft but certain. The sheets clung to me, warm from my body, and every sound outside faded until I could hear nothing but my own breathing. I turned on my side, searching for sleep, but the darkness had already taken shape. I could feel it, the faint rhythm of something moving with me, a breath that wasn't mine, a pulse that seemed to answer my own. The scent drifted in next, rain, dust, something faintly sweet, the smell that comes before a storm or after a memory you can't forget. I told myself it was the wind, that the silence was tricking me, but my body knew better. My heartbeat slowed, waiting. That was when the whisper came, so close it brushed the edge of my ear. It wasn't a word, just sound, a sigh that felt deliberate, curious. The air carried warmth with it, the kind that doesn't belong in an empty room. I pulled the blanket higher, but that only made it worse. The fabric slid against my leg, too smooth, too precise, like invisible fingers were tracing the seam of it. My stomach tightened. I wanted to move, to switch on the light, to laugh at myself, but the thought of breaking the silence felt dangerous. The mattress shifted, only slightly, like someone was leaning in, testing the space beside me. My throat went dry. I kept my eyes closed, as if that thin line of darkness behind my eyelids could protect me. Then the warmth grew stronger. It wasn't touching me. Not yet, but I could feel it hovering, mapping the shape of me through the air. The whisper returned, softer this time, like it was speaking to my breath instead of my ears. Every syllable vibrated against my skin. I whispered back without meaning to. "What do you want?" No answer, only a slow exhale that made my hair stir across my cheek. My body betrayed me then. My breathing matched the rhythm of that unseen thing, falling into its pattern, my chest rising when it did, falling when it paused. It was like being pulled into someone else's dream. The air between us shimmered with heat. I could feel the space narrow, an inch at a time, until even my heartbeat seemed too loud. I knew I should run, should wake myself up, but part of me waited for it, for the next sound, the next breath, the next proof that I wasn't imagining this. And then, just as I thought it had gone, the whisper came again, low and certain. "You heard me." My pulse spiked, but I didn't move. The voice wasn't angry. It sounded pleased. The darkness pressed closer, the air curling around me like hands I couldn't see. I could feel my body tremble, not from fear, not only from fear. Then silence, the kind that listens back. Somewhere deep inside that silence, I knew it hadn't left. It was waiting, waiting for me to answer. The air trembled like it was alive. Each breath I took came back to me, mirrored, slower, deliberate. The blanket felt too heavy now, pinning me in place, holding me between warmth and something I couldn't name. My body knew before my mind did. I wasn't alone anymore. The mattress dipped again, deeper this time. The sound of shifting fabric broke the silence, and the scent returned, that faint sweetness, soaked in something darker. It wrapped around me like smoke, filling every corner of the room. My heartbeat stumbled, then found a rhythm that wasn't mine. A warmth hovered just above my leg, not touching, just there, waiting. I told myself to stay still, that moving would make it real. But stillness didn't help. It only made the air thicker, heavier, charged with something that pulsed against my skin. Then came the first touch, so soft I almost missed it. A glide of heat through the thin fabric of the blanket. My breath caught. It was slow, deliberate, tracing the line of my thigh, pausing when my muscles tensed beneath it. My body reacted before I could think, a tremor that I couldn't hide. The presence leaned closer. I felt it in the air, in the quiet space between us. Every inch of me waited, listening. When the whisper came, it brushed against my neck, a sound more felt than heard. You kept me waiting. The words sank into my skin like a memory. My mind screamed to move, but the rest of me stayed still. The warmth trailed upward, following the curve of my hip, stopping just short of contact, teasing the distance between us. The air was too hot now, too intimate. My pulse beat against the silence like a drum. Every nerve burned for the next breath, the next trace of movement. I wanted to pull away. I didn't. The whisper came again, lower this time. Do you remember how it felt? I swallowed hard, my mouth too dry to speak. The question hung between us, thick and heavy. Then the presence shifted. Closer. The sheet moved without hands, brushing against my skin like it was alive. My chest rose and fell in shallow bursts, caught between panic and something else that felt dangerously like anticipation. A rush of air slid across my cheek, followed by a faint vibration, as if the darkness itself had a heartbeat. I could feel it, steady and patient, syncing with mine. The warmth moved again, slower, deeper, sliding along the curve of my waist. Every muscle in my body tensed, every thought blurred into one desperate truth. Whatever this was, it knew exactly what it was doing. The voice came one last time, softer now, but so close I could taste the breath behind it. Don't wake up. The words crawled through me like fire and ice at once. I didn't move. I couldn't. The air pressed tighter, wrapping around me until the line between my body and the darkness vanished. And then, everything stopped. No sound, no breath, no warmth, only silence, and the imprint of something that had been right beside me. But even as the room went still, I could feel it, the faint rhythm in the air, like a heartbeat that wasn't mine, waiting to return. The silence after the last whisper felt endless. I could still feel where the air had pressed against my skin, warm in places, cold in others, like the ghost of something that had learned every inch of me. I waited for the sound of breath, for any sign that it was gone, but the room refused to answer. Then the mattress shifted again, not sudden, not violent, slow, like a weight lowering itself into the dark beside me. My pulse raced. The air grew thick, humming with a rhythm that matched my heartbeat. I wanted to speak, to break the spell, but even my voice felt trapped inside the quiet. A faint warmth traced along my side, so light it could have been imagined. It didn't touch, not really, but my body reacted as if it had. Each slow movement sent a spark racing through me, the kind that begins as fear and ends somewhere far more dangerous. The air seemed to bend around me, shaping itself to fit the outline of my body. I closed my eyes. The world outside disappeared. Only the sound of breathing remained. One inhale, one exhale, perfectly timed with mine. It leaned closer. I couldn't see it, but I could feel the presence hovering above me, its heat sinking into my skin, the space between us disappearing until the dark itself felt alive. I held my breath, The air answered with its own. A soft vibration brushed against my neck, not a voice, not a word, just a pulse of warmth that seemed to ask for surrender. The blanket moved, slowly, deliberately. Cool air slipped across my stomach, followed by a wave of warmth that replaced it instantly. Every nerve came alive. My hands clenched the fabric, torn between pulling it back or letting it fall away. And the whisper came again, lower than before, so close it felt like thought, rather than sound. You feel it too. A shiver ran through me, not from cold, but from the strange electricity crawling across my skin. I wanted to deny it, but the truth filled every breath I took. The weight shifted higher, the air pressing down gently, as though the darkness itself was lying against me. My heart beat faster, louder, until it drowned out everything else, and then stillness, the kind of silence that comes right before something happens. A final breath brushed against my lips, warm, measured, intimate. It didn't speak this time. It didn't need to, because in that single heartbeat, I understood what it wanted. It wasn't to scare me. It was to stay. When the warmth vanished, it left the room hollow and cold. The sheets were still, the air unmoving, but the imprint of it lingered. Faint, invisible, alive. At the foot of the bed, the blanket sank inward again, 2 perfect marks facing me. I whispered into the dark, "What are you?" And then the air answered. Not in words, but with a single, slow exhale that touched my skin like a promise. I didn't sleep after that. I haven't slept since. If you've ever felt warmth in the dark where none should be, if you've ever sensed a breath against your skin when you were alone, you already know. It never really leaves. Share your story in the comments. Subscribe to Paranormal Sleep for more nights you'll wish you could forget.